All right, gang, we have tremendous news and an extremely crucial update to this project process. The sticky wicket, the one piece that I've been waiting on for months now, finally tracked one down, worked with a guy in the community. He sent it out. He told me he had it, did some research. He pulled it up same day and had it shipped out like the next day. The one crucial piece that was a total deal breaker for this vehicle is here. And at a glance, these are pretty much identical. And this is from a 95. This is the same as what we have on the red one. This is what came from the green, like the British Racing Green Junkyard Land Rover with that intake manifold. And the only thing really, the one piece, literally this piece here. Obviously, it makes sense to get the whole fuel rail just because it's a matching set, but this feed here on the 95, so 94, 95, 96, I believe, this is a threaded fitting into the return. This is one feed in, threaded fitting here on the 95. There's then a rubber line, which is just clamped on to a, I believe it's a steel line on the other end of it, you know, that's not present here, of course, with the exact same fuel pressure regulator. On the 97 and 98, they have a threaded fitting, but it is a slightly different diameter. So this is a spin-on nut here. This is fixed. This one is the spin-on above that goes to the pressure regulator. So this line itself is the main difference, as well as, of course, this fitting here and the slight configuration of, you know, this coming from above, this coming in parallel. But everything else on it, the Schrader valve, the fuel temp sensor, it's all the same mounting points, I believe. Yeah, I think so. But it's here, it's done. Let's get this stupid thing together. And this so we're on Jimmy here in the 97. This is the other end of it. Obviously, you've got the complementary parts for each side. And of course, they sit right above each other, just like that. So we did it, it's here. And the next step, though, is getting the cylinder head populated again and installed on this side. And then that's when we can put the intake manifold together for the first time for this vehicle ever since we've had it. And we're getting there. All right, there she is. We got all our valves in. They're all seated nicely. And yeah, I am going to do a tiny bit more cleaning, but not very much at all. Next thing is going to be cleaning up the head. I actually haven't done this at all, so going to scrape off any loose material, particularly in this area. So the oil port, clean that up, and then there's a lot of scuzziness that needs to come off of here. I'll do a light cleaning here just to get the front of it. I'm planning actually to, once the engine is completely put together and sealed, I'm going to give it a very general detailing. And then once it is up and running and, you know, it's kind of been shaken out and it seems like everything's put together, then I'm going to clean the whole engine bay and get this whole thing tidied up. But wait until it's all sealed up for that, because this is open to the oil pan. And yeah, I'm just going to wait until that's sealed up and then I can spray it down. But also doing just some cleaning back there because I'm not going to have access to it once everything's all put together. Same with down there. It's just easier once the exhaust manifold, or before the exhaust manifold goes on. Now we're kind of at a point, so I will put the head on and then I can put together, over there's the intake manifold parts. I think I'll put that together. One thing that I have to do chronologically that has to be done before I finish the exhaust is doing the transmission service. So drain and fill of fluids with the filter, replacing the automatic transmission filter, because the catalytic converters are dropped, and so they're it doesn't show anything, but they're hanging freely there. You need to drop the catalytic converter in order to, both of them on both sides, in order to get to the transmission pan, because you have to drop the cross member to get the automatic transmission pan out. In order to drop the cross member far enough, you have to drop the catalytic converters. I learned that the hard way, so about 2 weeks after I finished up the engine work on the red Land Rover and got it running, I shift over here. So about 2 weeks after I got the engine running and the exhaust all sealed up on the red Land Rover, I went to do the automatic transmission pan, and I read in my research, oh yeah, you have to drop the catalytic converters in order to get to it, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, I don't think I have to do that. Plus, I really don't want to, just because I sealed up the exhaust. Well, I had to, and I had to undo my perfectly done, beautiful exhaust gaskets and drop the catalytic converter to get to the pan. So on this one, I know now that there's no way around it, and the catalytic converters have been dropped since I got it. So I'm going to get underneath it, do the automatic transmission service, and I will bring you guys along for that. And then that's when I can do the final sealing on everything. So I'm going to clean up the engine and put it back together. All right, we have got our surfaces prepped. We have our gasket on. Of course, we have the letters up with the top, of course, being up. The block itself has been cleaned quite thoroughly. This is stuck in place. The engine hoist bracket, which you'll see shortly, is back on the cylinder head. And there's this little clasp has to get mounted to the back of it, but that, of course, is going to take place after it is on. So, time to get her on. Good thing these are aluminum, because this is enough fun as it is with them being light, but cast iron heads are even less fun to install. Sweet. Okay, that's it. So I've got my head bolts, the 3 tallest ones, go in first. There's just the tiniest dab of oil on the threads on these, the coarse threads that go into the block. I didn't forget anything, did I? You let me know if I did, right? Good. And I still need to prep the nuts and washers, but these will at least help it kind of hang out in a better spot rather than just those 2 tiny dowel pins in the bottom. And spin, okay, and okay, so remember, loose, seated, and that's all. Same thing here. Spin, spin, spin. Spin. All the way, okay, there we go. Oh, no, not yet. Getting close. Okay, so that's the bottom. Loose, seat, and there we go. Last one here. Seated, and there we go. Huge update. I think we are at a stopping point for a little bit. I'm actually going out of town for a day, and then I'll be back and I'll be working on this. So this is now the most populated and filled out this has been in my ownership. So driver's side cylinder head cleaned, valves reseated and lapped, and rocker arms and push rods installed. Same thing on this side most recently. Again, they're not surgically clean. I cleaned them up quite a bit, and there's no more loose material on them, and all of the drain ports are free. But what's basically going to end up happening is I'm going to get this running. Well, the oil pan is coming off. That's not next or in the very near future. And so I'm going to drop the oil pan, and then obviously that'll get the last of this stuff out of it because I'm cleaning the oil pan. Put that together, and I'm going to put all new oil in it with a new filter, and I'm going to run it for either a couple miles or, minutes, 10, 15 minutes or something, just to get it all cycled through. Modern oil actually has quite a lot of detergents in it, and you can even see the places where I've kind of dripped oil on stuff. If you rub it, the crust does come off. So that will actually act as part of the cleaning once the system's all sealed up and it won't have any leaks. Hopefully it won't have any leaks. But yeah, here we are. Still doesn't, it doesn't look like much more than we started with, but it is. Trust me. Then off of the engine, I will be putting all these parts back together. I'll do the thermostat and the water neck and the fuel lines, of course, all of that. We'll wait on this part, but that will get fully populated with the injectors and seals and everything. That is going to be next. I'm going to do that off of the engine, and then it will be going on. So that's it. Big progress. On to some more reassembly goodies. Isn't it nice working with fresh, clean, freshly washed up parts? Even our fuel injectors here got all cleaned up. You can even read, I don't know if you can, I can read the numbers and letters on the side. All nice and clean. This is the best part. So real quick, this is the original fuel line to this manifold. Comes right off, of course. This is the correct one for Jimmy. Hit the camera here. Do I have that? Yeah, so line up our studs here. There's going to be some slight wiggling. Of course, you have 8 injectors that are seated in here with fresh O-rings with some fresh, very light skim of silicone grease on them. So I'll basically get all 4 of those in a minute. Get all 4 of them in. Make sure they're all lined up with these respective holes. And then make sure they're all happy sitting where they are. They're all in straight and square. Square on the bottom, square on the top. And then we'll just very gently go around, tighten these up. Get to that in a minute. In the short term, the near term, we have 2 temp sensors. I did not actually buy a replacement for this. They're very easy to do, so I'm not too worried. If this one is for the gauge itself, this one I believe goes to the ECU, or I think it's the ECU. This one does not have the fan switch that I'm used to on the 95, which is down on the engine itself, the long block itself, short block, whatever. So this may be the fan switch, or this may be the ECU temp sensor. Knowing Bosch fuel systems, this is identical to a just 2-pin ECU temp sensor. All that to say, so we're going to put those in. This does not have a gasket of any kind. This one does have a copper crush washer. I'm going to double check and see if I have one. I have 2 different leftover head gasket kits, and I believe they do actually come with one. That's probably right there. So just because I have one, put it on. I will put it on. Otherwise, I think you can reuse copper crush washers. It's not the best thing in the world, but I also have a stash of copper multiple use gaskets. So double checking there. I think I do have one. So we'll get those 2 put in. Real quick, so this is the original that came with this temp sensor, and I confirmed it. This one came with this manifold itself, and this is a perfect lineup there. So I'm quite confident that this is for that temp sensor. This is a leftover from an Atlantic British head gasket kit. I believe this is a Bearmock head gasket kit. Bearmock does make good stuff and put together good stuff. I have a little bit more faith in the Atlantic British kit, which is why I'm going to be using these. I generally, with a choice between the 2, I use up the Atlantic British ones first. This is what came with it. So we have a, maybe aluminum or steel washer, 2 copper crush washers, and 1 larger copper crush washer. I don't know what they go to, and none of them match. Just because I have this obnoxiously large copper gasket kit, we are going to go ahead, put a new one in. It's actually a slightly tighter fit, so it's actually a small upgrade. So here we go. So we've got our replacement here, and that's going to go away. So in the actual execution of it, I cleaned up the threads with my trusty little thread cleaner tool here, which I love. So we've got, threads are nice and smooth here. A little more of a bite here, but it's going in fine. And the respective sizes, the 12 mil is just a perfect fit for that one. And then this one is approximately 3/4. It might be 17 mil, but 3/4 fits pretty tight. So we're just going to get those in and seated. Okay, let's do a little overview of the thermostat gasket, and thermostat housing, which of course this is the water neck, which mounts there. So there are two, just with pretty much with any vehicle, there are two different kinds of thermostats you'll find. I'm going to cover those up for now. So this is the preferred style, which has a little jiggle valve. And this is a safety feature which allows coolant to pass through no matter what temperature it is. And this is just, I really like this style of thermostat because what can happen is if your thermostat seizes, so let's say this one here, I'm tactically covering that hole, if your thermostat isn't working and it's sealed shut and the spring won't release, you're blocking up your coolant, and that's when you're going to overheat really quickly. With this one, if your thermostat does stick, you at least have this little bypass. It also allows it to bleed more quickly, so allow air to escape as well as letting some coolant through if it is overheating and this is stuck. This style does not have that, but my trick, which I do this on any vehicle, not just Land Rovers, if I have to use a thermostat like this, I drill just a little hole, I don't even know what size that is, but very carefully take a very fine, I center punch it to give it a center guide point, and I use my drill press and a very small drill bit to create that little clearance spot. That way, it's kind of same thing, if you're overheating or if this gets stuck, worst case Ontario, you still get some coolant flowing through. This came out of this vehicle. This is a new one from Britpart Atlantic. This is actually from Atlantic British, and it's Britpart, and it's made in China. And I think I would rather use this one. I will bench test it and literally just put it in boiling water and make sure it opens at, I think it's 88 Celsius or 180, somewhere around there. But it's made in USA, 54 millimeters. It's a heavier, nicer quality. It's got a lot more nice, brown brass on it. It's got the rating stamped in there. This one is new, but this is rubber, and this is just, it feels like thinner, cheap stamped metal, and this looks kind of, I'm pretty sure this is just encasing another material, brass or bronze encasing another material, and it's cheap stamped metal, so I'm using this one, which has my little clearance valve. And I think that's what I'm going to go with. There are also two main styles of gasket. This actually came from Atlantic British as well. This one came from Bearmock. I prefer this. I don't think there's any metal in this. It's just a composite material. This is sort of like a plasticine coating on both sides with... you can see it's got kind of a bevel to it, so it compresses. It's kind of like a crush washer, actually. I don't like this style as much. There is a sheet of metal between two pieces of some kind of coating, and that just seems like more of an area to leak. I use this style, and I cover 100% of the surface on both sides with RTV, a very, very, very thin skim of RTV. And then if we're going with this application here, then you place it on here, kind of tack it in place. Well, that's a really nice feature. A, it seals better, but B, you kind of tack it on there or here, either one. Obviously, it's going to end up there eventually. Put your bolts through, and then gently tighten it down. Get it finger tight, leave it for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then go and do your final seal down. I prefer that style. Can't get a grip on it. Can't get a grip on this either, but with this surface, you have one surface, two surfaces, 3 from the coating to the metal, 4 from the metal to the coating, 5 to the water neck. So that's a lot of area for leaks. Even if you do coat this with an RTV, that is still 2 more surfaces to go between. So I just like having one surface, one side, 2 sides, 3 sides. It's the absolute minimum you can do, and that's the way I do it. So here is our process for installing the injectors. As you can see, I've already done 6 of them, but I figured the last 2 we could do together. So we have brand new O-ring. You know what? I have one extra, so don't need to worry about that. One extra O-ring. So I had these individually numbered, so we have C7 and C5 remaining. 7 and 5. And the way orientation is like so. As you can see, 1 and 3 go there, 2, 4, 6, 8, then go over here. So we have the last 2 remaining. You know, this is 5 and 7 because they go in these 2 spots, because the even numbers go on this side. Anyways, I'll get you set up on the tripod here, and I can show you the process. We'll go with C5 here. Get our tape off. You have one O-ring here, another O-ring here. The bottom one is pretty firm and crusty. It's not terrible, and honestly, we could put these in and they would probably reseal all right, but may as well. We're going above and beyond in this one. So hook it, work it around a little bit. Even though I pretty much, no matter how far gone something is, if I'm throwing it right in the trash, I don't break or tear stuff unless I absolutely have to. So even though these are going right in the trash, just, you don't need to cut them off. Just be gentle. It's a good little experiment. So this side is generally pretty clean, but this side has a little bit of gunk in it. So we just take our Q-tip, run a little bit through there. Then we take our new O-ring, little bit, that's too much, but little bit of silicone, and I do a little smear here, and then I put it 180 degrees opposite, press it on, roll it over, give it a spin, and make sure that you let the excess silicone come out, silicone grease, and just run it around the edge. Same thing over here. New O-ring. Silicone grease on it. Put on the inside. Rotate. Give it a spin, and the excess will spill out. And then let it kind of stick to the injector, and just spin it in your fingers. There you go. So then, fuel side comes over, or I should say injector side goes over here into spot number 5. Kind of wiggle it in place till it goes all the way down. Oop. And then there's a very thin line here, which you probably can't see, but the clips will be going in there for final installation. Go back here. Oop. There, that's better. So we have number 7, last one. Take the tape off. Take our hook, come on, and you can see as I put the hook under it, this one is starting to crack. So the ones on the injection side, oh, there you go, cracking, and there's dirt in there, and so it probably would have worked okay, but we're here, we're doing it, and you can see these ones that are exposed to more fuel, the solid fuel pressure, they actually have a little more spin to them, but they're still hard. They've actually, if anything, they've swollen a tiny bit. So, same thing, clean side of the Q-tip, run this through, give her a dab. Oh, that's too much. So we'll share, put some up here. Come on. Nice and stiff, that's what we want to see. Good, so smear that silicone grease on the outside. Same thing here. Already, I'll just do a quick dab. There you go. Give it a spin. And, oh, you know what, let's take a little more. There we go. That's all of them in. So this injector rail came from a different engine, and they tend to kind of distort a little bit when you take them off, so We have all 8 of our injectors seated. They are not clipped in yet, but we're going to have to do this kind of balancing act of getting them seated deep into their ports on the cylinder head, or onto the intake manifold. And they seem to be sitting pretty good here. And of course, it's good to have a reference vehicle, so we'll actually double check against both Land Rovers. But if you look, there's kind of, some of them are at a little bit of a jaunty angle. So I'm going to go in and out, and that one's got a little bit, it's just a little bit chewed up here, which I don't love. I actually did not remove I had someone help me out and clean the injectors for me, so I did not remove them. That looks a little bit, yeah, I don't love that. But these are all also at slightly different levels here, as you can see. There's some kind of rocking back and forth. So we're going to have to pry it apart a little bit and make sure everything fits together. So I'll come back when that's done. Here's our reference point. Let's see how close we can zoom in. Maybe not. But you can see where the clips sit on the injector. It doesn't tell us a whole lot, but also a reference point on how the fuel rail sits against the intake manifold. There we go. Okay, finagled with it a little more than I would like, but the main thing you want to look at is, you know, there was some slight misalignment between these, so I kind of had to jimmy them in place. And this one looks like it may have gotten dropped, or it's sort of overextended here. I was missing one nut, so this holds a bracket. So these will be coming off before it's completely done. The wiring harness comes around here, obviously, with the injector. Well, just like this, but on the other side. So this and this and this nut, I think, will be coming off. This one doesn't hold anything in place, so I just put a little bolt in there to hold that one, pulled the stud, used the nut I had, so the ones that serve a dual purpose, 1, 2, and 3, will have nuts on them. Anyways, what we're going to be looking at is making sure that even though if there's any tension between these, at least the injectors are fully seated, which they are on all 4. This one's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit up, but there's almost no compression, so I think that should be good. We can actually flip it over, and lighting isn't great, but they're nice and deep into their homes. So there we go. Got the fuel rail in, and these are all sealed. Pray we don't have any leaks. We won't know until we go. So next we're going to go to our thermostat.